Guys, I'm Nancy Mura. If you have not met my crazy self, I'm very shy. I'm a wallflower. No, I'm kind of crazy. I'm Nancy Mura, and I'm the founder of the Private Practice Network and Pizza-Palooza Community and Conferences. And I'm here with some very special peeps today. We want to welcome you to the juice. I have the juice right here, my green drink I do every morning, highly recommend. Dense nutrition, but we have nutrition for your practice because some of your practice areas in your practice are a little anemic and they need some iron and they need some B12. Some of the owners need B12. So let me tell you how to get a B12 injection that lasts for months, okay? You come to our events. They are like B12, they're like 15 B12 shots. So for those of you that are pediatric, we have the Pizza-Palooza Community and Conference. We have Paloozaversary Flourish. That is October 7, 8, and 9. And Carrie Lee, you'll put that fabulous link up there for that, pizzapalooza.com/flourish. Guys, we're almost out of hotel rooms. And the early bird is ending. And registration is ending September 1st. So you guys better get your ticket and you better get your rooms. Now, the other thing is, guys, this is super amazing and exciting. So my very special co-host here, Paul Silovsky, PT and CEO of Rebound Physical Therapy in Topeka, Kansas, 2 locations. I don't know, crazy 1,000 plus visits a week, referrals up the wazoo. That's a technical term, by the way. And Paul here has been gracious enough to help us put together our first in a couple of years roundtable and summit for PT private practice roundtable and summit. Now it is concurrent with the Palooza, because the Palooza, the only thing that makes it peds is the audience. The data that we give you is all private practice stuff from the same resources. So if hiring is a problem, if retention is a problem, if referrals are a problem, if billing and collections is a problem, if your front desk being out of control with cancellations and no-shows like it's been, or maybe it calmed down, but okay, it calmed down, but did you actually fix the problem of why it went wonky to begin with? That's going to be the October 7, 8, and 9 flourish. And then the PT Summit is wrapped around there. And Paul Silovsky is going to lead an amazing presentation on mastering what he does master, being a CEO, being a kick butt CEO. So guys, if you're interested in that, you need to come to the summit. If you are adult, if you serve the adult population, you need to reach out to me. And you get the Palooza part, you get to see that, so we can bring that to you. That's why we're doing it. So I've got my right-hand gal here, Miss Carrie Lee. Carrie Lee is the Senior VP of Public Relations at Survival Strategies. Now, Survival Strategies is our sponsor. There's several people here that are their major programs. They're a training and consulting company that's been training and consulting private practice for over 34 years. That is like 3+ decades of training and consulting, only private practice. If you guys don't think they have this dialed in, woo, you cray. So Carrie is the Senior VP of PR there. And then we have Paul Silovsky, who is our one of our longest term clients of Survival Strategy. He's done every single program, and it culminated in a program called Power of Choice. So that's a kind of a big deal, because Paul, like everybody else, there's a stumble, right? We have a shutdown and a world pandemic, and you're going to stumble, but it's how fast you get back up with that ball and keep running. Look at me using a sports analogy. I hate sports, for those of you. For those of you that know me, I know nothing about sports. I'm like, Kobe Bryant was on what football team? Like, I'm just terrible. No, actually, no. Kobe Bryant. I actually know Kobe Bryant. Okay, I know that. That's just a terrible example. But my lack of knowledge in sports does not detract from my knowledge of how great Paul Silovsky is. So he's here to deliver. We're maximize. It's the max value plan. I love that. It's the MVP. Look, another sports thing, another sports analogy. And I got that. Look, MVP, max value plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul, right? Most valuable player is your max value plan. And our MVP right now is Paul Silovsky. Paul, I'm going to let you take it away. We are, by the way, Paul and I also co-host the Keys to Private Practice Success book club, which comes with the book. The KPPS book, you order that. Carrie will put that link up if you haven't gotten that. We're bringing that back August 18th. We're going to start chapter 1 and we're going to come back. You guys can jump in anytime. We'd prefer if you read the actual chapter, but I suspect that many of you don't. I'm going to be honest.
It'll be the 19th of August.
I knew that. August 19th, because it's a Friday. August 19th. Thanks. This is why she is the senior VP and not the junior. Okay, things like that. All right, Paul, enough of me. Take it away, senor. Let's have this MVP, max value plan.
Yeah, good. Nice pull on that one. That's good. That's I'm impressed.
That's why I get the big bucks.
You're expanding your horizons.
I try.
Well, cool. Hey, so this is a very recently when I say made up, it's actually I'm going to share with you guys some actual data, from the private sector that mainly, actually some of this data that I'm going to share with you comes from what a buyer would look at in your practice. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to go from general to specific on some of the metrics that I think that you should be squeezing on, which was part of the title, right? You want to squeeze the most out of your practice. So I'm going to go from general to specific, and I want to do my very, very best to make this as objective as possible, because there's a lot of subjectivity to value. And while the value of what we do in technical delivery has a huge subjective opponent that drives people to pay you, like that's not what this is about. The value of your practice becomes somewhat subjective if you don't regularly confront and evaluate raw data, objective data, because, even, a conscious buyer, if someone was going to buy your practice, if you were going to buy your practice, yeah, you're going to be sensitive to, who creates the environment and what it feels like, and, the warm and fuzzies and all that. But ultimately, they're going to look at the stuff that I'm going to talk to you about today, which is, I want you to, definitely don't separate those things, because how you treat people will drive the income the income or value you can create in your practice. I just wanted to point that out, so that you guys don't think I'm just some hard ass talking numbers here, because I will get into some metrics that I think that you should either establish or start looking at, or look at closer and squeeze on them. Press on them, because that's your role as an owner, executive. As an owner, I'm responsible for the profitability, the viability, and the expansion, and achievement of the goals of our practice. So, I'm going to talk about those things that could be evaluated as expansion, viability, and profitability for sure, and some of the sub metrics to that, and hopefully engage a discussion at the end if we have time to, like, okay, well, how would I arrive at that? What's something I could look at? Or I want to hear from you. I'm going to do one real quick survey, very informal on the chat, because I want to know what you guys evaluate what primary indicators you look at in regards to value of your practice. So I am talking about the value, maximizing the value, the market value of your practice. And then I guess I do need to do a screen share, because I always make slides to keep me on task, because otherwise I could talk about this subject without slides and tell you what I evaluate, but I did put it in some bit of a format. So can I share, Nancy, or Yep, it looks like it. Okay, good.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, we're going to go from the beginning. Good place to start. Okay, so how to squeeze greater value out of your practice. We already, Nancy very eloquently opened it up on the MVP. I'm going to have to change this to the MVP slide deck. I love it, love it, love it. So already talked about, your care of patients. So beyond great care, what drives great value? I can tell you that if if we were having discussion owner to owner and we were going to partner up, let's just say, give you that scenario. I won't say anybody's going to market or anything like that. I will tell you, and I told you before, I'd go from general to specific. You are strong as you are stable. You know, anybody that was going to partner with you or evaluate your value, and I actually encourage people to do ongoing assessments of your practice at least annually. We look really hard every quarter. I mean, I've already looked at the month. I know exactly where we're at to within $1,000, of profitability, within less than 1,000. I know the number right now for July, and I know where I'm at year to date. And I know what my average is monthly, year to date. I know all of those numbers because I'm looking definitely for that stability. I don't want to just have highest evers. I want my highest evers to be higher, and I want those averages to continue to grow and go up because I want to show stability with the expansion. So you have to have a stable base with your systems, which is what Survival Strategies is so awesome at, is helping you derive workable systems from your own determination viewpoint on managing your practice. And you have to have that team. Building a leadership team is vital. It's been the key to our success and our stability. So you definitely is from that core base. You can't lift more weight from a physical standpoint if you don't have a strong core. It doesn't matter how strong one part of your body is over another. If you have a strong core, then you can build the extremity strength. You can expand much better if you have a strong, stable base. So stability is super important towards growth, and the growth rate of your new business and your revenue or your visits, however you want to look at that. I look at new business flow, the value of the production. You can certainly look at taking over more, opening more clinics or territory, and then of course profits. You have to grow all of those factors: new business, production or delivery, expanding your territory or number of clinics, and then your profitability. That's a really simple way. When I said general to specific, I look at those things. I don't look at my territory every week, but I can tell you, I look at those other three every week. I know exactly how much new business we've got and what the value of that is. I know exactly what the value of the visits or the number of people we touched in the week. I have a calculated value of that, not just charges, but a collectible value of that. And I know what our cash flow is every week. And then, as far as if you were to partner up with somebody, or you were to take your practice to market. I know that's not what we're talking about with the majority of folks here. I mean, I have no desire to sell my practice. I would rather partner up and just create a stronger and stronger base of kick-ass, owners working together to grow the territory. As while we're great in Topeka, Kansas, I'm not outside of there at this point. So my opportunities, for growth lie in getting better at bigger territories. We're still taking over more and more at Topeka because we're growing that area. So we are growing there. But if I was, finding the right fit, so finding the right financial fit is really driven by, competition from buyers. I mean, in regards to the value and your multiple of your earnings. What value could you demand based upon your stability and growth and profitability in the marketplace? Because as an owner, you are responsible for that. You are responsible for the relative value, the market value of your practice. You should be driving towards some goal. You should have a goal in mind, even if it's just for this year or next year. I have a targeted number in mind with Roxanne, my wife, that's more driven by where we're headed, personally. I mean, I'm, 60 years old. I don't plan on quit working for a long time, but, we have a number that, we would engage in the marketplace with, that's driven by, our personal goals and dreams and values, not just the practice value. So, the practice is a part of it. And we certainly have income sources outside of the business, but this is the number one thing. This is the major driver. So we're caring for that, for our family, for the future of what we want to contribute to beyond the time when we're not even here anymore. we're thinking with futures in that way. So, I'm always looking at ways to increase the value of the practice, and for our staff too. On a really well-paid staff, and we have to overcome the barriers and the distractions in the marketplace for sure right now. So there's some of the general concepts. You've got to be stable first, and then you can have consistent growth. And we'll look at what growth factors you should be looking at. So what should you squeeze, right? What should you drive the objective squeeze on? Leave it to you guys to create the cultural environment and the expanded value or the value proposition of the interaction of your staff, because that is super valuable. It is what gets people to pay you, by the way, on a local basis. And it does help drive your profitability. But what are the objective factors that someone from the outside that doesn't know you, what would they look at to say, hey, here's the areas that you should squeeze on based upon industry standards or benchmarks, the best practices. And I'm not going to get into what the averages are, because I think that there's a large diversity of average percent of profitability and growth. The growth of my clinic compared to the growth of a newer startup clinic. I mean, for me, 5 or 6% growth might be fantastic, where with a new clinic, 5 or 6% growth might be considered a little below the average, because we're a 28-year practice. And if we can grow 5 or 6% in gross, production every year, that's pretty good. Now, I don't have that as a target or goal. I definitely set it higher than that. But, those things are relative based upon the age of your practice and whatnot. But check this out. And this is the other part of the general conversation that I wanted to impart upon you. And I learned this in management training with survival strategies, but that, you have to have great data that drives a good decision. I don't typically make bad decisions most of the time. I've done stupid things for sure, all the way through life. But, sometimes I make, most often my bad decisions are based upon, not good information, bad information. So you need good data to drive good decisions so you can take the most effective actions. And that's really where the squeeze comes from. It's like, well, what should I be squeezing on? Because there's so many things happening in my practice and in the marketplace that I could put my attention on. Which one's going to create the profitability, the expansion, the viability, and allow us to achieve our overall goals? So quick survey, and I'll take a look at the chat here. So I'm interested to know from the owners on here for sure, what are your main growth and stability indicators? In other words, what metric or metrics would you look at the most to decide whether you were, increasing the value in your practice? So just put it in the chat real quick. Whatever it is, there's no wrong answer here, by the way, because you can squeeze on anything and continue to improve your practice. But I'm interested in what you guys look at as the main growth or stability indicators. What metric? Is it profits? Is it new patient growth? Is it revenue per staff? How much revenue per week, per month, or per year, or whatever it is that you look at. I'm interested to know. There you go. Put it in the chat. It can be something as simple as gross income. It can be profits. It can be whatever you want. New patients. It could be visits. I don't care what it is. What are your main growth and or stability indicators? Billable hours, good, and gross income, excellent. Revenue per staff, percent of profit, excellent. Any others? And if you don't know, that's fine too, because that would be a part of this. Visits per week, good. How many people you're touching? Excellent. And we'll definitely break a couple of these areas down, or at least discuss them. I hope to have enough time at the end. Good. Referrals and new patients. What's BH target? Good.
Billable hours.
Billable hours. Okay. Numbers of cancels and no-shows. Okay. Billable hours. Okay, thanks, Emily. Okay, good. That gives me a good idea. So I'm going to put a few up here that about definitely things that a potential partner or buyer would look at, something I would look at. And I definitely encourage folks, if you were to do an analysis, you can do a practice analysis for survival strategies. You're definitely going to look at metrics. I did at least 10 of them. Seriously. I mean, we would do them after every program, I would do a new analysis. And then sometimes I did analyses before I started new custom programs I did with survival, but I still do them. I still obviously know how to analyze my practice even better now. And I've used outside sources to look at the value of our practice. I think I've done 4 valuations since about 2015, I believe. Yeah, maybe a little bit before that, maybe 2013. So I've done multiple outside evaluators for max value. So check this out. There we go. So you guys will hear the term EBITDA. You're going to look at, definitely you want to know your earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. What does that mean? What is your net income annually, right? Before you take out interest payments, tax payments, before your accountant puts in depreciation on your equipment and whatnot, or amortizes anything out as far as loans and stuff that you have, building expense, all those kinds of things. So what did the practice earn? Because if I came in to work with you and buy your practice or partner with you, I can't look at what my interest costs would be for that transaction, what my taxes would be compared to your taxes. I would have my own depreciation and amortize out along with you. So I have to look at just what did that practice cash flow before all of those things were paid out, because that is really the cash value, the annual earnings of that practice. Was it, $250,000? Was it 100,000? Was it 500,000? Is it $1 million? But whatever those earnings are, that is certainly a main driver. I definitely look at this every month. Now we actually, no less than every quarter, we get the depreciation dropped in, we get it updated. So we know exactly where we're at. I know where I'm at right now, to like I said, less than to under $1,000, and it's the 3rd of the month. And I know where I'm at year to date and month to date. And it's pretty darn accurate. I know that both on a cash basis and on a production basis, meaning based upon last month's production, what we project the income to be. So I have both numbers. So you really need to know these things, because I'm serious about this, and I look at the cash flow every week, and I'll show you a metric that I use weekly on that. And then anybody, you should be looking at your leadership team, strengthening that team and what their statistics are, what each one of those individual statistics are. My VP of operations, we're definitely looking at, not just the efficiency of our staff, but what is the value, what is the collectible value of all the services that were delivered, every day, every week, every month. I mean, for sure every week, and for sure every month, and for sure every quarter. And we're looking at the growth of that. So, and then we're looking at, you should be looking at your growth and retention of key staff, especially now in the marketplace. You want to retain your best folks and grow, the good staff members, the good efficient ones. And then of course, those raw production data or stats, like, new patients and billable hours and visits are important. And then for sure, obviously the revenue, gross income. And then you need stable people, someone evaluating you would look from a maximum value is how stable, I used the stability term before, but how stable and duplicatable are your management systems? And to me, this is where Survival Strategies definitely stands out. I would not be where we are at, or we would not be where we're at, because my managers would tell you that too, without, stable and duplicatable management systems. And now these guys have such mastery that, I just had a meeting with them this morning. I'm in Kansas this week. This is the 1 week that I'm back in Kansas. And we just had a meeting because we're having a key person move out of town in a month. It's leading all of our, we call them patient services reps, but all of our front desk staff in both clinics. And so she's leaving, and they're reorganizing that area, because she's a very stable terminal. She's been with us for 10 or 11 years. And these guys are making adjustments to the workflows based upon the staff that we have, and they're going to make it work better. She resigned yesterday. We already have the plan in today for exactly how we're going to reorganize that staff and fill that vacant post with somebody else and move one of our guys up. An opportunity just popped up for someone else to take things to the next level. And then a buyer or a partner would be looking at your resilience in the marketplace. They're going to look at trends. They'll look at historical trends over the last 2 to 3 years, which for all of us would tell us, and Nancy mentioned it in the early parts of this this webinar, you know, how fast you come back from when you know, what did you do to overcome the dips? You know, what exactly people want to know how you approached it or how you attacked it. So we have an ongoing record of changes we make, a change log, if you will, to know, you know, what changed when things went up and when they went down. But what did you do to create the growth, and what do you do to overcome, you know, diversity challenges? You know, for us, you know, we're a heavy Medicare mix. So, you know, what did you do with the tiered reimbursement on PTAs on the cut for this year? And we're still working through that, by the way. That's one of the things we're gaining ground on it. It's July, you know, we just ended July, and we finally kicked its ass the last 2 months. We moved past a barrier, and it took tremendous drive from that management team to overcome the barrier and distraction. And, you know, and now here you are. And then for those of you that don't know, you know, the Medicare rule just dropped for 2023 and the proposed changes. And there's another significant cut, at least proposed for right now. So we got to get on that right now. So, but point is you need to be able to look at these are all things of great value: your EBITDA, your leadership team, and those main production statistics. Having duplicatable, stable systems, and then what is your resilience? You know, how fast and how hard can you fight back? Here's some key metrics for an owner. You know, this is where I squeeze from. And again, I'm, you know, subject to, we're definitely going to have time here, by the way, to do some discussion and hopefully engage a little bit as a small enough group. We should be able to do this. But these are some of the things that I look at, key metric categories for an owner. And I've got them kind of broken into two categories here. So you as an owner, like I said before, it's worth repeating, you're responsible for the growth and the profitability and the viability. You know, when you get really good at it, you can see these indicators weekly, but for sure, I'd say no less than, you know, monthly and quarterly should you be really taking a close look at the big ones. And you should determine what the big ones are. Just like I said in the earlier slide, your ability to look at data, evaluate and observe for yourself, and then make decisions based upon good data will drive your actions. You know, your thoughts drive your actions, and your actions drive your results. So, you know, you should be looking at what goes into those thought patterns and what data you're looking at. So your new business patterns, obviously, the genesis, the alpha is, you know, how many, you know, what's the new business growth. And or value. When I say growth, it may not always be how many new patients. And I know there's a difference between pediatric, the value of the lifetime value of a patient is different in between the pediatric sector and the adult therapy sector. So, you know, I'm definitely, while I'm very sensitive because we turn our patients over faster than the peds, I'm very sensitive to how many new patients we start every week. I'm equally focused on what is the value of the collectible value of a new patient. And obviously, it's driven by our collections per visit and our you know, charge diversity, if you will, what codes we use. But it's also driven by the number of visits per new patient. How long are we seeing, and what kinds of patients are we seeing? You know, in our case, a balance and vestibular patient is going to be very short-term, short-lived. We get them better so fast. It would take more of them than it would someone with, you know, some comorbidities and, you know, chronic low back pain and some balance deficits, let's say, as opposed to someone with vestibular or BPPV. You know, it's a completely different, you know, demand on the practice for how many new patients we would need and what is that collectible value. So you need to be able to, you know, work those levers. And then driving into the production, you know, I've got to get even better at this one. I have an entire strat plan target built around right now, pressing a lot harder on making sure we get that overall product of of the company achieve. In other words, the successfully completed plans of care. Our technical delivery area, you want people to complete, and you want them to be highly satisfied, and you want those success stories and whatnot. But how many of those? So it's not just the visits, but how many people completed, and we're super happy. So you need to have that overall measurement. That collectible value of a plan of care becomes really important for both the new and for the existing patients. What does that look like? And are people, completing, not just doing visits, right? So, and then, measuring your executives' effectiveness. If you're going to be stable and growing in the marketplace, you need a team. You better be building a team. Trust me. Again, another thing that Survival Strategies is so awesome at is they help me create my freedom in life by teaching me how to build an effective team of executives and hold them accountable to their measurable production, their production metrics. It's really simple. I think our industry is really simple. Get them in, treat them and complete them, and collect the money. And I don't like the fact that we collect the money retrospectively. I think it's a total aberration of our industry. It'd be great, I'd love to flip to a cash business. Maybe I'll just open one just so I can, give my, direct my intentions and opinions towards the marketplace by saying, at least I have, a cash-based business. We're getting more and more patients on, cash pay plans and services because of the high, co-insurances or high deductibles and whatnot. People just decide, hey, let's just make a deal. So we're getting more and more people doing that. But back to your senior executives, your leadership team, getting them to the production metrics and understanding the value of a start, the value of completing a full plan of care, and being super effective at making sure we maximize our collectible value for everything we do. And then, you're breaking it down even further. Obviously, we'll talk more about, your key production measures, whether it's, it's visits, charges. I don't like charge per visit is important, but, more important is for us is charge diversity and units that maximizing the units within the guidelines of the Medicare rule of eights and the midpoint rule of 8-minute rule for, other insurers. But, for me, it's accrual charges. I want to know the collectible value of every visit. I know for the peds, it's billable hours, but you really need to, have those so well known that you can look at them daily, weekly, and monthly, and squeeze the most out of them, because every month that goes by, your biggest area of loss is not staying on track with these closely enough every week. And for some reason, I'm not advancing here. There we go. And then a few broader stroke finance metrics. Those were more for you and your management team. This was put in the chat, but that's the second one. I'll wait on that one. But your revenue per visitor, your revenue per hour, that was mentioned for sure. Super important to us. We took a hit because we're 50 to 55% Medicare. So we definitely took a hit at the first part of the year and had to really, make sure that we were maximizing our revenue per visit by making sure our coding or our charge diversity was correct. I know the pediatric practice look at the revenue per hour. We work on a 40-minute visit schedule for established patients, so we have to do revenue per visit, but we could certainly calculate it per hour, easy enough by our staff. But that's a super important number to leverage or squeeze the most out of. And then I think Emily put it in the chat, and we've actually had a side conversation before on the phone about this, but the revenue per staff, it really is a key statistic. We look at it weekly, and then we also calculate it out, monthly and annually. It's easy to extrapolate out on a even if you track it weekly, you can extrapolate it out into monthly or annually. But you really want to, as you expand, just because you add staff, if someone's saying I have X number, we have 25 staff now, we only had 5. Well, I want to know how efficient they are and whether you're more profitable. I don't care how many staff you have personally. I want to know, what your revenue per staff would be. As far as a growth pattern, it may vary from practice to practice a bit, because your expense basis can be different than mine or somebody else that's in, Virginia or New York or LA or something. It's rent's incredibly, a lot cheaper here, but so I have other expenses that are lower, but it's a key statistic for measuring the effectiveness or efficiency of your staff. So, and you should be training your staff so that they can, so they can make more money. They should be placed on a production metric that will allow them to make more money. So, I'd be remiss to say, what it was currently and have you do a comparative. All I'm saying is you should start looking at this at least, monthly. Look at the number of full-time working equivalents that you have. It's a really simple calculation to take your gross income and divide it by the number of full-time staff that you have, at least month over month. We know what it is every week, and that's people on the payroll, by the way. It isn't, you still count somebody as a full-time equivalent, even if they're gone on vacation for the week, because you're still paying them. So anybody that's on the payroll, we make sure that they're part of that calculation, and we know, what our, like we've got one out on maternity leave right now, and we're no longer paying her because she's used up all of her PTO. So she's on the short-term disability plan, so the insurance company's paying her. So she's come off of that FTE log for right now until she comes back. So as long as we can keep our production up and absorb her visits with existing staff, then we can keep our revenue per staff, up and sometimes even higher. And then I put an asterisk by this one. I'll explain this a little bit more if I need to, or answer questions on this. This is a statistic. This is actually a statistic for our executive team to look at every week, as we look at how much cash do we have on hand, and we subtract that number from the amount of bills that are owed next week. And it shows the health and viability of our practice. So the cash minus the number of bills that we owe. It doesn't mean everything we owe. If we had a note, I don't have any notes right now, but if we had a note on the building, or if we had a startup note on a satellite, another practice, or a note on the startup of our business, it only means if we owed, it's that next payment. It's not all money's owed. It's only the bills that are currently owed. If they're owed into the future, you count them as they come up. Okay, so it's a good measure, because I'm interested in I want to know what that net number is every week. Okay, and as far as a statement of cash flows, and what doesn't necessarily mean that's what my profits were for the week. That just means it shows what I cash flowed every week. But we press hard to not not be out of balance there on our cash flow. And then the valuable assets of the company. You can do this quarterly or annually. If you really wanted to do it weekly, you could, or I'm sorry, monthly, you could. But how much cash do I have? What's the value of my accounts receivable and my AR? What's the value of my equipment or my property? And then if you have any investments or monies in reserves or invested, which we do, then the value of those funds as well. So because you as an owner, definitely are responsible for the valuable assets of the company. So I put an asterisk by that one. That one cash minus the bills owing is because, and if you're working with a survival client or with survival strategies consultant already, they can help you with this one. But this really helps me. I work with our financial controls person to, we're and my VP of admin or office manager, admin director, whatever synonymous term you use. We're definitely looking at this every week. We're managing those cash flows to maximize the value of the practice. Here's a few tips or advices as we bring this home, and then I'll show you a couple of slide decks, just a couple of simple calculators I use. I encourage everybody, and I've done this on previous webinars before, make profits your number one expense. It actually is your top expense. It's not your biggest one, but it should be your most important one. So we budget in profit every week. That's why I look at that cash minus bills. I make sure I take it very personally if we're not. It's a very guttural thing, and I will tell you, in life and in your company, you have to demand it of yourself first, and then from the rest of your staff, your production and inside your production planning and staff. Financial planning for me, people talk about, I have a financial planner. No, you don't. I mean, you might have a financial planner that's helping you with your asset investments. It's driven by your income production. You have something to invest because you can do income production planning. I actually don't even call it financial planning. I call it income production planning with my executives, and it comes from demand for income. So your demand for income is what determines your income potential, nothing else. This is the most important thing. You know, if you let someone else decide or one of your staff, you will lose money every week. You must demand the income or the profitability or the viability or the value of your practice. It's easy to get people to arrive at the value of what they do with a patient. That's the easy sell. But to establish what that value is and to make it more valuable, that's up to you. And to drive the income. This is a subjective factor. I guarantee you, if you had to make more money, you would. And that's why I make profit my number one expense, because I make it, it's built into every budget and my staff know it. You know, my clinic directors know that their expense number inside of their expenses is a profit number. And they've got to hit that, they got to hit that target to revenue share for everything above that. And that's how we do it. So confront your products every week, your key products. So that's why those key metrics are important. And get your staff to do the same with theirs. The one that they're responsible for, they need to drive it. You're not the only person that is trying to force all these things through the other end to an end product, a profitable end product. So my advice is to pick a few key measures that you know you can move the dial on. And this is where we can get into some question and answer here near the end. On figuring out which one, I'm not going to necessarily help you figure out today what's most important, but you should have a pretty good idea. If you've got good data, you can figure out what are the few things. Like for us, it's revenue per visit right now. And we're pressing hard. We've been pressing hard for months and we're finally breaking through. I don't know what happened there. We're finally breaking through on the revenue per. We're really good on the visits per new patient. We see our patients for an appropriate amount of time and get pretty good outcomes. I'm going to make a bigger deal of the outcomes, but our collections per visit need to improve, and we like a lot of other clinics, we're not as good as we should be with our arrival rate. And I saw someone write that into the chat, which is a really good one to pay attention to, but it's a lot more profitable for me to squeeze on revenue per visit than it is arrival rate as far as the juice being worth the squeeze. And I'm not saying I'm not going to press on arrival rate. I'm just saying I'm going to make sure I've got revenue per visit in first, because I don't have a visit problem. I don't have a new patient problem. Yeah, I do have a little bit of an arrival problem, but the bigger problem, the bigger loss is revenue per visit for me. So that's one key metric that I'm working on. And then of course, hiring and retention. We don't have a problem retaining people as much as we do. Just we need to hire more new ones. Our growth is going to be tied to new. To more providers. So you got to pick your metrics that you want to measure and write your strategic plan to dial into those metrics. And that's what you should be working on every week to squeeze on. And my word of advice on a management tip is to, don't go in talking about the purpose of making more money. Dig in the purpose of delivering, a more complete visit. I know with this charge per visit thing, we go in from the viewpoint of accurately reflecting everything we do and of course charging for it so that we can have a well-paid staff. That's the purpose of it. It isn't just to make more money. It is to, make sure we realize the full value of what we're doing, inside and out, and make it known. And plan from there. So ding in the purpose of why you're doing things with your staff. What I mean by ding in is that's what you're going to put their attention or emphasis on, not the profits and the money. But you can incentivize them for sure on helping make the company more profitable. And most people are usually down with that, but you have to have a higher purpose. I know for us, it's making a difference in people's lives. So we have a Make a Difference campaign on completions. We pay back money to the community for every successful completion that occurs in our company. That's why I need to put even more emphasis on successful DCs, folks that meet all of our criteria, that fill out a success story, and we have bona fide, concrete evidence of a full completion, and we give back to the community on every one of those that complete. So that's what I mean by the purpose. And it's pretty hard to not make more money, if you will, if you're getting more and more of your patients to complete their full plan of care and charging appropriately for it, not undercharging, because that's unethical too. Here's this is a real calculator that's not live on this one, but this was an earlier in the year scenario, and I'll show you a difference. I mean, the difference it makes pace wise anyway. This is a pacing tool. So we were at 63 new patients a week, and we projected out strategically a 10% growth, which would take us to 69. So that's only 6 more new a week. Not a huge number. In other words, we were actually staffed to be able to handle that. And our visits per new were at this level, so we didn't project out much growth, this 1%. So we left that relatively the same. So we didn't project much growth there because we felt like our visits per were pretty good for where we're at. At one point, when this whole Medicare shift, we took a little bit of a dump on the collections per visit early in the year. So this is an earlier in the year projection. That we were only at $85 per visit. And so we targeted out an 8% growth to take it to 91.80, which was a 680 visit per visit. And that's one we've been pressing on. So we did get over 90 recently, to press on this. So this then just calculates out real simple. This is on a 52-week year, of course, and that's how many visits we would do this year at that current rate, and that's how much revenue we would do. PT revenue. This isn't our wellness revenue. So doing that many more new would take us to 4.2. But look at the difference, 494,000. Now this calculation, this 4.2. I'm sorry. Shoot, I should go back one there. I hit it. This 4.2 is on 49 weeks. We take actual. We know that our staff's going to be gone at least 3 weeks a year, a couple of weeks of vacation, and 1 week of being closed, or 6 days that were closed. So this is a 52-week calculation on the left, this one here is 49. So, but it's still almost a $500,000 difference in our practice. And we're now on pace. We're much closer to this 91 than we are the 85 now. So we're moving towards, capturing this number with the same staff. So I love calculators like this that take existing staff and plug in, you can put a arrival rate on here. You can put anything you want. You can populate this with whatever. We were just looking at the number of new and the collections per visit. We definitely, left the visits per new in there because you got to have that in to know how many visits you're going to do. But, you take your existing staff and you figure out what metric you want to lean on and do different calculations to figure out. And this is, again, what Survival Strategies is great at helping you do. But this is a really simple calculator that I use to show my guys that we look at it, at the end of the month, we look at what the current averages are and look at our growth and project it out. So you can do this for any period of time, by the way. You can do this monthly, annually. This is an annual calculation, actually a 49-week calculation, like I told you. But I want to know what I'm pacing for because I want to pick up the pay. It's just like training an athlete to, run a 4-minute mile or whatever. You've got to learn them you got to teach them how to train at a particular pace, to use the sports analogy. And then here's another one. This is just an annual growth projection. I actually had this conversation with an owner, so I just pulled this one up that I did with her because this is close to where she was at, and I was showing her the value of just a little bit of growth. And I'm only showing a profitability growth of 1% a year here. But check this out. So this particular clinic owner was projected out at the current revenue pace of 2.4 million, okay, in gross production. And if we targeted out a 15% profit rate, that would be $360,000 a year. Now, what would be the value of that in the current market? She could probably pretty easily get a 4 multiple for that. In other words, 4 times that if she went to market to sell it. So her practice would be 1.44 million, or be worth 1.44 million. And then you'd have, you got to, of course, you got to pay taxes for that too. And then I just showed a 1% profitability growth in 5 years up to a 20% profitability rate. Okay. And a 5% growth rate in revenue. So she went from 2.4 to 2.52 to 2.64 to 2.77. Not a big growth rate. I mean, not from 2.4 to 2.9. Not a massive rate of growth, but that 1% a year of squeezing out more profits, whether that be through arrival rate, collections per visit, revenue per, episode of care, however you want to do it, right? Whatever, with your consultant or with your tax advisors and your management team. But look at this multiple that people pay for your practice. So if she went from a 4, she could get a 6 multiple if she made this 583,000 a year number here and did that times a 6. Look at the difference between a 4 multiple and a 6 multiple in the marketplace. And you might be with certain buyers, you could probably get more than that. But I just wanted to make the point that just, this incremental growth pattern, squeezing a little bit more out at a time, makes a huge difference, because her practice would go from 1.4 to 3.5. Now, I would suggest that, you could make this jump with a great management team. You could make this jump in much less than 5 years. You could do it in a year. I mean, I showed you a way in 1 year on my illustration back here to make a 494. If I could do this with the same staff, how many times would you do that? Well, I would do it many times over, right? I mean, that's almost a $500,000 increase. Again, we're talking, like a clinic that's doing, I mean, we actually did in total, like 4.4 million last year, because we have other services too that we collect revenue off of, not just PT, but this is PT only. But if we went, if we jump to 4.3, that's almost a $500,000 increase just in PT only, just by mainly changing the revenue per visit and seeing a few more new ones. So I want to hopefully I didn't overwhelm you guys with too much data here. I think they make those illustrations make sense, but I want to leave time for questions. Nancy, I'll rely on you to help. I mean, actually, I should just get rid of this so I can see.
Always. I mean, I don't own a clinic, and I'm like sitting here like, wow, this is like fascinating stuff. But I always, two things. First of all, we're going to thank Paul tremendously at the end here. But one, Carrie Lee always has a survey for us. The survey is really important. It is part of the admin technology at Survival Strategies. Is like, we don't just go in a room with, a blindfold on in the dark with a hammer. We try to hit the nail on the head, and survey tech is the way to do that. So bear with us, please, and fill out the survey that Carrie Lee is providing for you. This is how we plan upcoming events, seminars, webinars, conferences, you name it. It's very valuable. You guys really matter to us. We know we've got different size clinics on here. We've got some peds, we've got some adult. So take the best and leave the rest. But with that, I always like to kind of point to a takeaway that I always have listening to Paul with my no clinic and no fancy letters after my name. If you look at the common denominator of what Paul is saying, and I want to just give you the broad brushstroke here on how it's not just Paul, it's his entire practice. There's some sports, I'm going back to the sports analogy. Oh my gosh, there are some sports where most really, but some are deadly. If you don't literally keep your eyes on the prize, focused and in the game at all times. Race car driving is the one that comes up for me. Like, you're driving in a race car and you're trying to beat that guy and you're trying to get around that turn. If you take your eyes off of what you're off the road, you're pretty much toast. You're pretty much in that wall and it's like a big spectacle, right? If you notice, Paul is not dealing with any of the everyday fires, minutia, disorganization, he's got, that is the foundation has been poured and set, and then the practice was built on top of that, because this is how he has the time to focus on these things. And when I say that it's not just Paul, we had Wendy Stanley, we talk about Wendy a lot. Wendy is his patient care coordinator. She's in charge of getting referrals for Paul. So Wendy looks at her stats. How often? Sometimes by the hour. Okay, could you imagine having a team that by the hour looks at their stats and then corrects them? So there's no, like, what's happening for a lot of you guys is you're letting a whole trend, you're letting a whole quarter or half a year go by before you look and say, oh my gosh, wow, our referrals went down 12% over the last quarter. Guys, you have to have your eyes, you got to look at it like you're driving a race car. Paul has his life and work so organized that he can put all of his attention on the numbers that matter the most. That's true leadership. So if you guys, I don't care what size you are, I don't care if you're peds, I don't care if you're adult, you have got to get the organization in. You got to get that foundation poured. If some of these numbers seem like, holy moly, I don't even know what that looks like, we start getting you out of the dark with a financial assessment tool, which is called the FAT, because, you know, I have to make everything like weird and funny, kind of. So we want you to get FAT, get the FAT actually. So the FAT is the financial assessment tool. It's a free 1.5 hour consult that Survival lends Carolyn McDermott, who couldn't be with us today because she's on a call. She does this for 1.5 hours for free. And you start getting out of the dark using metrics. There's another gradient that's above that if you're too advanced, she's going to say, you know what, this is too baby of a gradient for you. Let's get you moved up there. And a bunch of people on here have all done the practice analysis. That's what I'm talking about. That's what Paul was saying that he does constantly. But guys, I'm going to tell you right now, what Paul's talking about, that valuation, the value of having systems. So at the same time that one of our longest survival strategies, pediatric clients, sold her practice for multi-millions of dollars, double-digit high. Someone else called me, been in business the same amount of time, got offered $450,000 because she couldn't get valuated things like goodwill. Paul can valuate his goodwill. Paul can push a button and show you how many referrals came in over the last like 15, 20 years, however long Paul's been in practice. So it's super duper important that you get this level of organization in. And if you're an older client that's been around, or an older owner that's been around a while, look at what you've dropped out. Listen to what Paul presented, and then see what you dropped out or never put in, and put that in. We always hope that this is informative. We always hope you find value. We know your time is extremely valuable. I'm gonna turn this over for questions, but if I don't get a chance because you jump off, I wanna say thank you to Paul and to everyone for joining us. Please fill out the survey. Paul, we don't have that much time, but maybe you can answer a question or two.
Yeah, I'm typing a few in.
Oh, good. So you're getting to them.
I am. One of the, Ebony asked about cash versus accrual. We calculate our accrual production every week so that we know, like, while we do cash accounting, I mean, as far from a tax basis and that, it's cash. So I look at that, like I've already looked at our cash for year to date and July only, but I also look at the accrual production so I know how far behind we are. Like our accrual production is usually a little bit ahead of our cash. So an accrual meaning, we just take the number of visits that we did every week or every day of every week and then total it up obviously for the month to know what we still have out there in monies to collect. That's obviously part of our AR. But I want to know, I want to make sure we're not getting too far behind there on our collections and our accrual production compared to our cash. So I look at both, but it's from an accounting basis. I mean, it ends up, I mean, we're last year, this is super crazy. First time it was this close. But last year, Jolene, my financial controls person, she was 0.36% off between actual cash and accrual projections in our collection. So that is killer, under 1%. So, but you know, we look at our payer mix. We look at our payer mix every day. Our accounting system, I know how many visits for Medicare, how many visits for Blue Cross, how many Aetna, how many Cigna, how many I just know. I know what my mix is. I can look at my mix every day and buy therapist and know. I don't have to, I just can. Okay. And but if you look at it every day, and I'm talking seconds too, because I look every day at every one of these major metrics in the morning or at the end of the day, doesn't matter. I mean, I can do it either time. I can look at this morning for yesterday, or I can look at tonight for today. And if I just look, I just know. I look at it so much that I just know. Nobody can tell me, nobody can BS me. Nobody can tell me anything about what is or is not happening in my practice because I can see the numbers. And then I can go find out what's happening. I'm not saying I don't care about what's happening in their world, because I care about my guys a lot. Every meeting that I have with people, I want to know how they're doing and what's happening. And I understand your car broke down and your kid's sick and, you know, mom's not doing well. I do care about that. But we're going to get into this thing that I've already seen. And I want to know, they know I want to know what's happening, you know, with that. What are we doing to move this? I'm here to help you move that. So anyway, I digress.
Well, not really. It's always every tidbit is super great. So if you want to hear Paul Silovsky, if you deal with the adult sector and you want to hear Paul Silovsky present and also help with ideas. I mean, there were so many things that we could turn juice topics into. Like, what do you do with all these reimbursements? Like, do you notice there's like no fear in his voice when he's like, oh yeah, so they just gave us a new decrease, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's got it. Cause I know Paul for 10 years now. It's been a decade, Paul. Paul he's already got set up and in motion compensation for those issues. He's got compensation going on for everything. So this is where you go from being, you know, you're at 100 miles an hour in the entrepreneur highway of life, and you're either the windshield or the bug. And Paul has really championed being the windshield. Paul does not like being the bug. He doesn't want to be the bug hanging on. He is the windshield. And that's what you have to look at. There is some mindset that is very much attached to this. I can't tell you guys how much when I hear people decide things, like deciding to survive, deciding to flourish, deciding to get order in, deciding to make more money, deciding to handle more patients, deciding to have better staff. It starts with a decision. It really does. And then the rest follows. There's a lot of people out there offering a lot of help. If you're looking for help, we've got it. If you're looking for someone else for help, that's great. Just get help, but look for a couple of key things. Look for it's not a consulting dependency, meaning they help you put out a bunch of fires. A lot of people don't have the systems figured out. I love these PT owners turned consultants that they never tell you how their practices are doing. But then I look them up and I'm like, oh, they had 5 locations and now they have 1. They've mastered the system of contraction. Let me give you my money so you could tell me how to not grow my practice. I mean, that just cracks me up. So please do your due diligence, do your homework. And if we can help you, we will love to help you. So Carrie, can you put my cell phone in there? And we got Paul's email address. If you're an owner and you want to talk to Paul, just email him to set up. He's super one-on-one. He's super great. And he will be in Orlando at the PT Summit. You guys should check him out. He's fabulous to listen to and pick his brain. And he loves to problem solve. And he's really got it pretty sorted out because in the how many years, 20 something years that he's been in practice, there's been a lot of economic downturn. There's been 9/11. There's been 2008. There's been the pandemic. So you guys, I'm going to let you all go. Thank you. If you filled out the survey, please take the time. If you haven't, we love and appreciate you. This is the best private practice for PT, OT, and speech, whether you're peds or adult, is the most honorable profession as far as I'm concerned. And that's why I have no fancy letters and I don't own a practice, but I love you guys and support you. We all support you 150%. And we hope you feel that. So check out our next offering and come. We'll see you in a month. We'll see you. When is it, Carrie? September 7th? Ooh, we got to wait a whole month for Paul. So, let us know what you'd like to hear about. Paul and I will drum up some juicy topic and have a great day. Paul, thank you so much. Thank you, Paul, you fabulous, my juice team here. Okay.
And seriously, let Nancy know if there's something specific you want me to cover, because we can totally customize this. This one was totally made up, by the way. When I say made up, I wrote it up yesterday or last night. Nancy contacted me, told transparency I wasn't done with this last night. I had about 2/3 of it done, and I just said, okay, I'll finish this up. I'll be ready for today. But it was a totally made up presentation. So, but hopefully it was helpful.
We love it. There's always value, Paul. All right, guys, go do what you do best. Go treat those patients. Go make those communities better, and go change lives. Okay, we'll see you next time. Peace out.